We're a very forgiving cultural diaspora, by the way. The people say, why would you have anything to do because you're in their country? That's the one thing I always remember. We are the minority, but it's amazing how we culturally embrace so much of what, and that comes by way of those who are brave enough. Anyone know of the Windrush National Monument that now rests at London Waterloo Station? Single most valuable thing I will have done in 2022 and in the last 32 years in public life. In fact, more than ever the 5 gold medals I've won for and on behalf of this country, because it represented my father, my mother, and every parent that made that brave journey here post-war. Because what they were exposed to was extraordinarily ignorant, stereotypical, societal. But now, when you go to a monument, and by the way, I would recommend to every single one of you, if you can, and you can take your young or your friends, or you're going to meet someone in London, meet them at the National Windrush Monument. You'll be amazed of what it says to you, how it resonates with you. And it was, I went there because I was on the National Committee, but I went because I wanted to see if it would have a genuine impact. Many years from now. But it took a diverse group of individuals to make it happen, because not many people wanted it to happen. That's the other reason, and the thing I want to always remember as social coaches. You are the ones that when you're given someone that's already said they're not going to make it, they're not going to achieve. How many were told you weren't going to achieve your potential? It's great when you prove them wrong. It's great when you turn up at your school and ask you about the prize giving. I invited my housemaster to the House of Lords. They said, we never saw you coming. I wonder if they saw me coming, what would have happened? Everything, and I don't know how many of you saw the opening ceremony of Birmingham 2022 at Alexander Stadium. Diversity doesn't become more powerful than that. And people talk about equality, diversity, inclusion. No. The villages that the athletes stayed in, albeit for 11 days, it is the perfect community. Cultures are interactive. And that's what you're able to do. But that's why this place is so special. This place is so important. I've heard about it, but again, until you experience it. Any more questions? Because I'd like to have the great, by the way, one of the great cultural emancipators of bringing together a people, food. But the right food prepared by the right people with the right love, the right care. So, the mother of the community is there. I've never come here and not been fed. It's sustenance. The Norwegians broke all of the peace processes that we have seen by way of global conflict. And what they do is they collect the VIPs or the divided interests at the airport, and they take them to their homes. They give them breakfast in their kitchens. And after 2 hours, then they take them into the big tables of negotiation. And it works. So you have your hands up.
Yeah, when you were talking about sort of gang culture and Maslow's hierarchy came to mind. So the survival and then the tribal, and then the third one is when you have gangs because they don't feel safe because of the environment they've been in. And the stage above that is to form a community, which is what you said. So looking at, I think, the Maslow's hierarchy and why people are in those groups can be really insightful for coaches.
Anyone aware of Maslow's hierarchy? Okay, one of the actions, Janice, says we will share that. When you see that, it will answer your question. It wasn't a long-winded, but I was hoping the wisdom would come from, as I hoped and does, from you all. A community, once it knows of which you become the product of, and as you've seen, why is it so bad? Here it's so much better. So we know that the behaviours societally are available to everybody, or so we're told. But it does start from an economic standpoint. Economics determines your lot in life in this country. Because it's a class system. And if you haven't got enough, my parents always said a roof over your head, clothes on your back, and food to eat, and warmth. If you have those 4 requirements, the primal instincts will pretty much be comfortable. And the lower classes are always so much more humble in what they need and what they require. I can tell you now, I've met many of the wealthy, and they're not happy. It's just a massive responsibility. But once you have poverty, and it's in your head that you are impoverished, I grew up with very little, but my God, did I have a priceless group of individuals like yourselves. I was a latchkey kid. My mother started at 7 in the morning, 8 o'clock at night. I always lost the keys. So I would go in any one of 6 doors in my flats. And I was treated the same as the children. So the women, again, were absolutely critical in providing that sustainable place. The sustainable love, care and attention that would suggest ultimately you treat people how you want to be treated. Ultimately, it's a social work. Treat as you want to be treated. So you go into those communities, you'll be different, would you not? Sure. But your car, your house, and your profession, and so you're pretty much like us. You're different, but you're now at a status where you can interact with us. Hierarchy.
This really vague question, but in this area, so recently over the last few months with the cost of living, etc., there's been talk of more racial tensions and stuff. Have you had a situation that you've done in the past? I'm sure there's lots where race has stopped you from setting up something like the Youth Charter, and what have you done about it?
3 decades of something I did not expect to be our life's work. I genuinely believe that Benji Stanley's life would be one occurrence that would not see us like the other societies where I travelled and seen from poverty, see this culture grip our communities and damage the lives of our communities. I started this work with Margaret Thatcher, the then Prime Minister in the 80s. There were riots, and the riots were already a frustration in the streets. It's the most extreme form of democracy. And if you remember the riots, I'm going to the back because you look a bit more grey, there's a bit more wisdom in the life journey. And you remember the riots. Gentlemen, you're looking at me as though I'm placing you under an extreme form of servitude. I'm just asking whether you witnessed the riots, you experienced the riots.
Which ones?
But there you go. Which ones? There have been too many of them. I was part of the 80s riots. There were 3 riots in the 80s, 85 being one of the more extreme. I'd say in the 21st century, the 2011 youth riots were arguably the most damaging and nearly destroyed this country, if not for switching off the networks of mobile phones. But what one would you be reflecting on?
I think it was that one. One that happened in Birmingham.
Results, yeah. That was serious. We were sick and tired of sus before stop and search. Sus laws. It was a design to give those who came or looked different a hard time. Because the police didn't have anyone that looked like us. By the way, don't always believe diversity does need to reflect a society that's policed or educated. But don't forget, most of the migrating Afro-Caribbean community and the Commonwealth came to be nurses. Do you know the NHS would collapse without our diaspora? They would not exist. My mother came at the age of 21 to be a nurse, as my aunt, and so many. Oh, there are those who say, you won't touch me. How many of you reflect, how many of you remember the rhyme, sticks and stones will break my bones, but names will never hurt me? Anyone remember that?
Yeah.
Absolute nonsense. It's the names that brings back the sticks and the stones, and worse. Anyone remember Nignog, Sambo, Coon? I say that to my lot now, my tribe, and they laugh, they don't even know what it means. Anyone remember Alf Garnett? Black and White Minstrel Show? No, you need to know where we've come from. We've come a long journey. Love thy neighbour. They couldn't do that now. So sometimes progress has been made. Anyone remember Rivers of Blood speech from Enoch Powell? It was written no more than a quarter of a mile from here, at what was then the Conservative Social Club. Now, the West Indians Social Club. Who'd have thought it? And all Enoch Powell did was tell the truth. He spoke of his own. So everything is about, although we're a species that progress, then we regress. We seem to make progress, and then we're right back where we are because we get lazy. Someone told me about 15 years ago, Jeff, we've done racial equality now, so we'll do gay rights. I mean, they're all protected characteristics. There's a reason that everyone will have a prejudice. I have prejudices. I work with them every single day. My wife would say you're racist. So they're racist to me, so I'm racist to them. They cap me, so I cap them. Well, that's why I started karate, and then I learned. And I progressed. And it was self-defense. So what we're doing, we're defending the rights and responsibilities of our young people in our communities, but we're empowering them. Because every single one of you have that power. I'm going to pause them unless there's any more questions. That food must not go to waste. I'm a great believer that one not eat at pace. But if you can bring your food back with you, we're going to try and set up the action learning scenarios. And you can eat as you impart the wisdom of your respective experiences. Thank you.
Thank you.